Good day, ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros. I will be joined shortly by the George Webb on the Potomac, and we're going to be talking about everything that's happened this week in the world of geopolitics. And George's big focus is NATO, so we're going to talk that as well. And just some big questions, too, some big picture stuff just for the newbies like myself and others who don't completely understand. Let me switch my mic here. Who don't completely understand a lot of the big picture stuff in geopolitics. So we are going to talk about that as well. And if you guys have any questions for Mr. Webb, excuse me, George, he doesn't like it when I say Mr. Webb, but it's a force of habit, I guess, that I say Mr. and Miss. But George, yeah, so a lot of crazy stuff this week, man. There is a legal coup going on in Israel. They're trying to get rid of Netanyahu, which I'm not sure if anybody saw that happening, because I don't know, it just seemed like he was going to rule forever there. So we'll ask George about that, see if he has any thoughts on that. We got rats eating each other in New York, so that's something. And like I said, the big picture stuff, like the famine in Yemen. Hunter Biden's getting investigated. I'm sure people saw that. And then, of course, we got good old trusty Joe Biden to provide us with something to talk about always as well, with his dementia he has going on, or whatever is going on. Why is Iran the bad guys? That's another one too, that I don't fully understand, because there's this cognitive bias, and that's something I want to do at some point in the future, is just videos on cognitive biases, because I would like to know them better as well. But there's one that basically you forget your what it's like to have a lack of knowledge in something if you're really good at it. So I think that can happen sometimes with guys like George who really know their stuff. So I try to break it down to really simple bits so everyone can understand at least the big picture. But it does take time and repetition to do so. So keep that in mind. Quadrex, what's up? Crazy in Israel. Yes, it is. Liberty, how's it going? I'm guessing you're, I don't know, what does Lesur mean? Raven. Oh, I agree. Ryan Dawson. Yeah, he's maybe the only person that I can think of that would perhaps have predicted Netanyahu's. I don't know if this is the start of his downfall, but I don't think. I mean, I certainly didn't see them going after Netanyahu. I mean, it seems to me that they love him as much as the Russians love Putin, but I guess I was wrong. So we'll see if Mr. Webb is, excuse me, George, has anything to say about that. You see, I'm not doing it to be genuflecting or anything like that. It's just literally a habit of mine. But yeah, again, if there are any questions for George, we will just put them in the comments. If it's a good question on topic, then yeah, we'll definitely ask it. Any off-topic questions, goofy, funny questions, just save them to the end, and we're gonna go about an hour. So last 10 minutes, if you guys got some random questions, random goofy questions for George, we'll do that then. I was just watching some RT about basically how the UK has been handling it, and Boris Johnson, and the countries within the United Kingdom all seem to be handling it differently. And it also seems the leaders in those countries outside of England within the United Kingdom are displeased with how Boris Johnson has been handling the situation. I'm not surprised. I would say that the United Kingdom has been handling it even worse than the United States. That being said, they have way less people, so I mean the risk potentially is less there, but it does seem to be worse in the UK versus the US in terms of precautions they could have taken, and additionally the police power abuses that are going on as well seem to be bad in the UK, but in the US as well. So I think we'll talk about that as well. Oh, and there was a sheriff. I don't know if anybody saw this as well, but there was a sheriff arrested for corruption. I don't know if that's low-hanging fruit or maybe it's something else. I think his deputy did as well. Let's see, a New Mexico sheriff. Sheriff's race includes dispute over video. Shoot, man, I'll try to find it, but give me a sec here. Yeah, so we still got a few minutes until George joins us here in the lobby. So anybody wants to share interesting stuff they've learned throughout the week, we can definitely do that as well. And I'm going to be doing my roundtable later today. It's just going to be myself again. I was going to do it yesterday, but some stuff came up. So Sunday is kind of my day of getting on a lot of material this week. It was supposed to be at the end of the week yesterday, but looks like we're going to kind of merge them together here. And Nick Bryant's interview got pushed back a bit, so that'll be at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And right after that, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, will be an interview with the people of Oppenheimer Ranch Project. Oppenheimer Project Ranch. And they do like sustainability stuff with like gardens and geo sustainability. So we're going to talk about that. I actually don't know too much about it, so that'll be pretty cool to learn about what they got going on over there. Let's see. Dominic Cummings, Boris's main advisor, broke the lockdown rules. I saw that he was getting yelled at. It said a top aide, I believe, to witness complaints to police about Dominic Cummings as pressure mounts. So he people taking pictures of him. Looks like he did breach self-isolation rules. These people, you know, they think they're better than you. They think they're better than me. Air bridges warn business groups. Virus will lead to a decade of depression and debt. Yeah, you have no way of knowing that. In Ireland, no masks, gloves in supermarkets. Travel 5K. Can have gatherings of 4 people. We've had issues getting medical prescriptions due to doctors being closed and unwilling to offer a phone appointment. So that's in Ireland, assuming Dublin. What's up, Carol? Cindy? Oh, Cindy, what happened to your interview of so that is still in the works. She had to reschedule. It was going to be actually last Sunday, so a week ago, but we're going to get that done this week. You actually reminded me I have to get back to her. Miss Piazza is her name, Piazza Nicholsif. So yeah, we're still going to talk to the sexologist sometime this week. So once I figure out the time for that, I'll put it on so people know. I'm trying to get better at doing that Sometimes I actually don't know when we're going to talk till the day of, but I'm trying to make it so I can schedule in advance as much as possible so people know kind of when things are broadcasting here on the channel. I obviously it would be ideal to have everything at the same time, but I can't expect people's schedules to align with what I want exactly. So I have to adjust to what they're doing. Flying check, what's up? How's it going? Quadrex, like and share, appreciate that. He's actually a cool guy, fluent in Russian. Wow, that's impressive. Anybody fluent in Russian or Arabic is, that impresses me. Quadrix, whenever you get to it. Yeah, yep, but it's still coming. And who knows, maybe we'll do it more than once. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Cuomo giving his briefings from the beach, but citizens in NYC lockdown, not allowed to use public transportation to get to the beaches. Interesting. Carol, less and less sanitizer everywhere. I'm actually seeing the opposite, fortunately. The sanitizer seems to be coming back in stock because it was gone for a bit in my area. I actually, fortunately, got some here from Target, and I'm trying to use it more, but I just do a little bit. I got this huge big thing. So, yeah, the sanitizer is getting easier to access here. That's unfortunate for you, though, Quadrex. Yeah, check out Ryan Dawson, guys. We did an interview last month, and well, I guess it was a few weeks ago this month, but we're gonna talk again this week sometime. I still have to. I'm gonna message him this week. He told me to hit him up sometime this week, so I'm gonna do that, and we're gonna talk World War II again and Civil War. Just go deeper into that stuff. He definitely knows way more stuff than I do about this stuff, so that's why I want to learn from him. But we might delve into some other stuff too that I know less about, and I can just listen because with the World War II stuff I can kind of contribute a bit because I do know quite a bit about that compared to the average person, but compared to Ryan, it's not very much. Are you catching any of the Snowden interviews? Did he do another interview? Because I saw his interview with Vice. One moment. I saw his interview with Vice, and that one was quite impactful on me. I remember watching that late at night. It was like 1 a.m. and I was like, wow. But if he's done other ones, let me know. I will check it out. Ask Webb about China. I will do that. Well, I'm sure China will come up at some point. Maybe we'll talk a little face masks. I asked him about it last week, and it wasn't, a huge discussion, but we'll see. Not a whole lot to discuss on face masks, I don't think. I think it's kind of a low IQ topic, to be honest with you, and I'm somewhat done with it. I think talking about the politicization of it is an interesting point because that's something that's developed recently. But yeah, as far as whether or not to wear it, I just don't want to have that debate anymore. But yeah, he's going to join us soon, guys. If you're just joining in, George Webb, reporter. He's going to be joining us live from the Potomac. Hope everyone's doing well wherever you're at. Good evening to all my UK folk. Oh, and we are officially in the PM over here on the West Coast. 14 minutes ago was high noon. So we are now all in the PM on Sunday, May the 24th. And Asia is already started their week, their Monday, that is. So shout out to anybody checking in from there. I don't know if we have any Asians checking in, but a couple weeks ago, there was someone from Bahrain. And Twitter is often the best place to look for what's actually going on. Chris Wallace. Who is Chris Wallace? Fox's Wallace shreds Kayleigh McEnany for questioning reporters. Who's more believable, CNN or Fox? What do you guys think? I'm with her. Why is that tweeting or trending again? I need chapstick. What happened to Paul Cottrell? Paul's on backup channel. Yeah, so Paul has 2 channels. Well, I guess he only has 1 now because I don't know if he deleted it or what. But yeah, if you just search Paul Cottrell, you should be able to find his other channel. Harvard. I'm with her. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are on Twitter, but throw me a follow on Twitter or Instagram if you guys are so inclined. I don't post on Instagram as much as I used to. I definitely post on Twitter the most. I'm probably on there the most out of all social media websites, with the exception of YouTube, if you count YouTube as social media. But wow, what a change. Let's see what we got. Thanks again for the phone conversations with Pepsi. Yeah, no problem. I always enjoy that. Did he lose his mind? Who are you talking about, Liberty? I sniffed some salt still at Fox and positive boop. Oh, hello. Hey, Kai. I agree. I think, I don't know if, I mean, maybe like 95% of what CNN says is untrue, and maybe 80% of Fox. But yeah, I do think that Fox has more credibility than CNN. But ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited and happy to announce that Mr. George Webb has joined us via his phone, and he's on the Potomac River. George, how are you doing this afternoon?
Addy ads. I mean, I've made the big time now. I'm telling you what, I'm loving this. This is awesome, Addy. Attikin, can I call you Attikin sometimes when I want to give you advice?
Yeah, for sure, George.
Okay. It's Addy until I feel fatherly.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah, it's so. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit late. We
No
had
worries.
We had an air conditioner heater unit that was gargantuan that the help needed to muscle down the stairs and out of the attic. So that's why I'm a little bit late. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. No worries, George. I was just chewing the fat a bit with the early comers here in the lobby. Just talking about all the crazy stuff that happened this week. We didn't get to all of it, but a very action-packed week. And I think you actually did a week in review video the other day. I didn't get to see the whole thing, but Hunter Biden being investigated. I don't know if you saw, but there's looks like a legal Israeli coup that's going on this morning. On Netanyahu's on trial for corruption, which I definitely didn't see that coming. But yeah, what do you want to start with, George? And then just later, I want to ask some maybe big picture questions that isn't or they aren't necessarily linked immediately to COVID in China. But yeah, just what do you want to start with off the bat?
Well, first of all, for people who are not familiar with me or my channel, I've been doing this almost 4 years now, and coming up on 4-year anniversary. And it started with a simple premise. There was 2 big books that I read. One was Guns, Drugs, and Oil, and another one was Clinton Cash. And I kept trying to get deeper than these books. Michael Scott Thomas. Excuse me, I can't remember his full name right now. It's been so long since I did the shows. But the idea was that there was these dark weapons that were supposed to be shut down in the 60s on something called Project 112. And Nixon ordered them shut down, Fort Detrick shut down in 1969. But the guy who was running the CIA, a guy named Helms, decided to keep it going and hide it from Nixon. So he basically, the CIA compartmentalized this stuff and farmed it out to different universities, not letting them know the critical part about upping the ante to making these weapons. So they do a lot of animal research over here, do some human research in nasty countries overseas. The two didn't know about each other. And really, that leads you right into where we are right now with this bioweapon right now and a series of bioweapons. The program has changed in who the proxy country is and which universities are involved, but it's the same. It looks like the same program. And we believe, that the name was Project 123. It changed. Hi, Cindy. Nice to meet you. Hi, Debbie. Saying hi to all your folks. Hi, Carol. Yeah, it is a nice view. It's a little cold today for Memorial Day weekend, but it changed from Project 112, which Kennedy supposedly approved. This was to do, I think it was 8 bacteria and 7 viruses, or maybe it was more than that on the virus side. But we brought in these Nazi guys and brought in these Japanese guys that ran those bioweapons programs. Did it become Project 123? We believe it did, but that's where we are right now. We found a 123 drop box in Congress. We found some Blackberries that were tied to Fort Belvoir and the Intelligence Command from the Joe Biden Blackberries, the Hunter Biden Blackberries. Is Hunter Biden a part of this cover for weapons and weapons testing, bioweapons testing to China? We don't know. We just know that he did a deal with China Nuclear Group for $1.5 billion. We know who configured the BlackBerry. We know who did the encryption on the BlackBerry. But it's one of those things where it's a big puzzle and you just have to keep chipping away.
And is Hunter being investigated for that particular act right there, that transaction?
Yeah, China Nuclear Group, $1.5 billion. We don't know if that's to perfect the coronavirus bioweapon or not. But then he's also, his dad's also on the hook for the prosecutor that was looking into all this. Most people don't know the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. They have they're the ones that are in control of these bioweapons programs, and they have about 13 centers in Ukraine. There's 25 overall, but most of the bioweapons got moved offshore to Ukraine at some point with the fall of the Soviet Union in '91. So what we're trying to do is fill in the holes, like where did it go from 70 to 80, and where to go from 80 to 90. It's real easy after 91 because Bill Clinton comes in, and then it's easy to follow, because a lot of people have written about the Clintons. But Hunter Biden didn't come in until 2006, 2007, but his mentors at the CIA, Cofer Black and so forth, certainly were involved all the way back to the 70s.
Okay, and who was the CIA head during Nixon's time? Was that the Brennan, or Brennan's a new guy?
Oh, Brennan's much newer. Richard Helms would have been the guy. Colby used to live right where Colby drowned, the CIA director from 74.
He drowned. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, right over there. Right over there. Yeah, right down there. His body was found 9 days later. This is the Wacomico River where it meets the Potomac. And right over there on the Wacomico is where he washed up. I've been over there many times. Lots of rumors about files that he left under the church and all this, but we never found any files. But
do you think that that was an accident?
Oh, there's lots of conspiracy theories about him being pulled under, and if it was a drowning. I've talked to many people on this island that look for him. The Department of Natural Resources organized a search party and went on for 9 days. These are veteran boatsmen, watermen, and they couldn't find him. They thought he was underwater. Pulled under.
Divers found him though, or they never found the body?
No, volunteers found him, I believe, and they found him washed up on this little sandy beach just right over there. I filmed it in my series. Kevin Shipp, who used to do videos with another YouTuber and is not doing them anymore because they had a falling out. But he wants to do a series on the death of Colby. We've talked to a guy who was given a guy named Doug Valentine, who wrote the Phoenix Project, who was given carte blanche to interview over 200 people at the CIA by Colby. So we're trying to work on that mystery as well, because we think Colby, being a staunch Catholic, there's certain things he would do, but certain things he just couldn't do. And we think chemical weapons spraying was one of them. It wasn't just Agent Orange in Vietnam. It was a whole rainbow of colors.
Do you mean he couldn't do them, George, because of internal compass or his internal code? Okay.
Yes. Drugs, I think he could do. He could look the other way. We found that out from Doug Valentine, but there was something about biological weapons on women and children that he just balked at. So we've always thought that he was the person who was trying to drop clues to Nixon, potentially, to get Nixon to shut this program down at Fort Detrick. But it's a giant jigsaw puzzle, and we work at it every day.
Definitely, George, and we're all trying to catch up with you and your research here. But let's pivot a little bit here. I just wanted to ask about the famine in Yemen, because that's something I think a lot of Americans don't understand. I certainly don't understand what's going on in Yemen. I had a girl in one of my classes in school who was from Yemen, and she wore the head cover and everything. But yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah, like most areas, the CIA, when they just might be muted. Okay, there.
Oh, sorry about that.
When the CIA discovers oil or oil and gas underwater somewhere, immediately there's two factions that start fighting. A place could be quiet for 1,000 years, but as soon as they find oil or gas, now there's two factions. When you have two factions, you have a no man's land. When you have a no man's land, you have use of all these chemical weapons. You may remember Julian Assange published a picture of a Yemeni girl named Wallah, horribly burned by a white phosphorus weapon. We put that white phosphorus chemical weapon in this same group of 123, Project 123. And it's definitely the same crew that's maybe not firing the weapons, but the same crew at CIA is doing Libya, Syria, Sudan, and Yemen. And all with these same blackberries, the Biden blackberries, all with this same Dropbox, we think, this 123 Dropbox. So Yemen is just yet another place where we use the Quds force in Iran, Peter Strzok, et cetera, and the gang to arm one side. We use Brennan, as you mentioned, with his connections to Saudi Arabia to arm the other side, or they're going right up against the kingdom's forces directly, and let them fight it out, sort of thing. And then we end up funding the UN to go in to be the peacekeepers, where there's all sorts of bad things happen when you build UN prisons and all that. We've covered that in our series as well with this company called DynCorp, dying.
Yes, I've heard of them. They are quite similar to Blackwater, as I understand, right?
Yes,
and they just continually get government contracts, right?
Yeah, but where Blackwater is more the people and the mercenaries, this is more the black weapons, the dark weapons. So this is the chemical weapons. They sprayed all kinds of chemical weapons in Central America. Supposedly defoliation, the story, like Vietnam, Agent Orange, it was defoliant. No, it wasn't. It was just basically a big chemical weapons testing range. Biological weapons started in the Korean War, we know. This Air Force base in Boston called Hanscom Air Force Base. We've looked a lot at Hanscom and how they were weaponizing for air delivery, airmail for these things. You wouldn't believe it. But ticks, fleas, mosquitoes, any possible mosquito or insect vector they looked at, as well as other vectors as well. Human beings being another potential vector.
These people, are they motivated strictly by controlling resources, like the desire to control oil and therefore money, or is there a religious motivation too?
And it's triumph of the will. It's triumph of. There was a very famous movie called Triumph of der Willen by Hitler. His personal photographer Leni Riefenstahl made this very famous film, propaganda film called Triumph of the Will. And that is, if you want to be in power bad enough, it doesn't matter how few people you have sitting around the table, if you are willing to be ruthless enough. If you're willing to have no limits on your warfare, and no limits in how underhanded you'll be, you will win through will, just willpower alone. And so we followed a lot of these Nazi programs into NATO and into the United States. Paperclip right over there is Dahlgren Navy Surface Warfare Center, and a lot of the Nazi paperclippers went right to there and helped the Navy develop chemical warfare. We did an operation called Sea Spray, where we actually sprayed the city of San Francisco with a toxin in the 60s and 50s. So this is not, it's very secretive, but it does happen.
Was the aim there to eliminate black people or homeless people?
No, just to test the weapon, just to see how many people got sick, and just see, if should you do it on a foggy day, like today, because then people wouldn't be able to see the spray. Should you do it at night? Could you do it from a destroyer 20 miles off or a smaller boat 10 miles off? Those are the kind of questions that the Navy was asking. It was a sort of a mock weapon. It really didn't, I don't think, it killed only a few people.
Wow. So they're basically using their own citizens as test subjects.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this whole thing with developing the virus, Addie, is the same deal. There's 500,000 test kits that came up to our airport right up here, Baltimore Washington Airport. And where did those 500,000 test kits come from? Why would the Governor Hogan, privately deal in a secret deal with the president of South Korea to secretly fly in 500,000 test kits when Trump had as many as he wanted? Why would he go behind Trump's back, the leader of all the governors of the United States, if he wasn't running interference for Johns Hopkins to bring those test kits back? If the bioweapon was deployed in Wuhan in October, and all the evidence points toward October, toward a mass gathering like the Wuhan Games, where we had 250,000 people come there, the pattern of spread is Wuhan out, with none of the other major cities in China getting it. Only people really flying into Wuhan and then flying out of Wuhan, right? And what happens to those 500,000 people that are died? You need their blood samples. If you want to learn how effective the weapon is and what kind of people it's effective against, you got to get those blood samples.
So you think they're smuggling them in from South Korea?
Absolutely. There was a cult called Shin on Chi, which you won't believe it. It's the weirdest death cult you ever imagine. Funded directly by the people that funded the Japanese biological weapons program. And these people pray together so close, they look like they're eating out of the same dog bowl. They force them to share food. There's 300,000 of these people. They have military proctor guards overseeing them. If they get sick, they're not allowed to go to a doctor. If they get sick, they must still share food because they believe their leader is the new Jesus. It's a really sick group. And they had a huge contingent church in 30 different countries in Wuhan, where the spread was. And the largest group in Korea, responsible for more than half of the people infected in Korea, are from this Shin on Chi cult.
Two questions. So that was the Christian cult, right? And then whose soldiers muscle were watching him or testing him, I guess?
Well, I think it's the CIA, not CIA, South Korea's intelligence is run by our actual ambassador. He used to be a Navy guy in PACOM in the 7th Fleet. His name is Harry Harris.
It's run by an American?
Well, yeah. I mean, the key liaison, the key liaison, the key liaison to South Korean intelligence is run and directed and answers to Harry Harris, who is a CIA operative who is acting under a diplomatic cover as ambassador to South Korea. Absolutely.
Wow.
And was his job to get these 500,000 kits back from these 30 different countries and then get them back here to Johns Hopkins for analysis.
Yeah.
That's why Harry Harris personally negotiated the diplomatic flight. Harry Harris personally negotiated the diplomatic flight from Incheon, not Seoul, not a normal route, not a normal freight route. It was the first time, only ever time, from Incheon, a military location only. The first freight flight direct from a 777, direct from Incheon to BWI. And if that doesn't sound like a covert operation, I don't know what does.
Yeah, and it's a side anecdote on Incheon, or I say Incheon, I don't know what the pronunciation is, but the nicest airport I've ever been to.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's outstanding international airport. But you
What were you
actually,
doing in Korea, Addie?
oh, it was just a layover. I was actually going to Central Asia no, it was last year, sorry. Yeah, I was visiting my, well, I'll tell you later. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, it just, normally when the president's saying you can have as many test kits as you want, they're having phone calls every day. Remember, Hogan, Governor Hogan here in Maryland is the top guy who holds the call to all the governors about what do they need. So every day they're being asked, do you need anything? Do you need anything? Remember, we went through the ventilators. Now we went through
Could you explain that, George? Is that a temporary position because of the pandemic?
No. He was elected to this. They elect the board of governors every 3 years, I believe. And
Okay.
the reason they do that is because they want to speak with one voice to the president, speak with one voice to the Congress. The reason why they elected Hogan was he's a pretty middle of the road guy, and a lot of the Democrats like him as well as the Republicans. I liked him very much until this occurred. But then this backdoor deal, with Korean intelligence happened, these 500,000 kits, and I was like, oh my God, this is such an obvious surveillance op for a bioweapon. It just seems obvious to me. But we need to prove these things out. We need to get more evidence, and we'll get there. We'll get there.
That actually brings me to a term that we kind of mentioned in passing last time, but diplomatic immunity. Just go over maybe that quickly, because I think although it is a pretty easy term to understand, it's that important, I think, to go over more than once.
Yeah, if you want to follow a Bulgarian journalist by the name of Dilyana, it's Dilyanni. She talks about how diplomatic immunity by the State Department was used. What I do, Addie, is I say, hey, George Webb, he's a journalist, right? We're going to make him the undersecretary of the undersecretary of the undersecretary for hockey equipment or whatever. Give him some kind of title, and then I give him a diplomatic passport. Diplomatic passport means that the diplomatic pouch that I'm allowed to travel with, these are the size of a man. These pouches are like 250 pounds, 300 pounds, right? They're huge.
Pouch.
Huge, right? I could put anything I want into that thing, right? Dilyana categorically went through all the bills of lading and went through how they used the diplomatic couriers to move these blood pathogens around between Fort Detrick and Winnipeg, the NATO BSL, the level 4 lab where you could actually recreate and reproduce these bioweapons, and also international travel. So diplomatic immunity is very important with this coronavirus bioweapon. It is how the weapon moves with the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. So diplomatic immunity is also used. It can be, if you're a diplomat that's moving, you can move a whole container. If you have several people in your entourage, you can move several containers. There's even been whole planes that have been declared diplomatically immune. I'm sure this 777 from South Korea was only a diplomatic flight. And we had one that Dilyana reported about was called Silkway Airlines. And there was 700-800 trips where they were flying covert weapons to Africa, and they were flying blood diamonds, oh, you name it, everything, your yellow cake uranium, all sorts of plunder out of Africa in exchange for weapons, and also the Middle East, and also Eastern Europe, and Eastern Asia, and Asia, Central Asia.
So they do weapons, as in guns and explosives, but also bioweapons and blood, and
And
uh,
drugs, unfortunately, you can manufacture these drugs because if you make the bioweapon, if you make the virus, you also get to make the vaccine. So we had a guy on Capitol Hill that is in with Rahm Emanuel with a drug lab in Faisalabad, Pakistan. How often does that happen? I don't own a drug lab. Eddie, I don't think you own a drug lab.
no.
So how do these people get away with this? Diplomatic immunity.
And Rahm Emanuel, is he still the mayor of Chicago?
No, there's a gal, I can't remember her name, it's not Penny Pritzker. I can't remember her name right now, but one of his key assistants, one of Rahm's key assistants, became mayor of Chicago. Rahm stepped down about a year ago, a year and a half ago, maybe.
Gotcha. And do you have any thoughts on Netanyahu, people within Israel trying to take him down? Because I did not foresee that one coming at all.
Well, a lot of people hate Israel. People might know that I have very strong feelings in favor of Israel. I wanted my kids to serve in the IDF, so I'm a very strong Israel supporter. I'm not a greater Israel supporter. I don't think half of Syria should be Israel. But Netanyahu is one of the few people through the back channel to the president's son-in-law, to not Jared Beck. I almost said
Jared Kushner.
Jared Kushner. He's one of the few back channels of getting intelligence to Trump. And they tried this once before with Netanyahu on some ridiculous trumped-up charge before he was elected. And he didn't win commandingly. They didn't end up having a majority, but they ended up having to do a shared power arrangement. But now here they are again going after Trump's back channel of intelligence. None of the intelligence people surrounding Trump are giving him the right information. None. He's completely sheltered from what's really happening. And Jared Kushner is his only back channel to what's really happening through Israeli intelligence. And I know how hard that is for people to believe. But remember who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Gina Haspel, who came directly from Brennan putting her in there. The FBI, Christopher Wray, came directly, was an apparatchik of James Comey, right? The ODNI was a guy who had been defrocked by Hillary Clinton 10 years ago. Dan Coates, now they're finally putting in somebody who has some fair play. I used to see him all the time on Capitol Hill. I'm forgetting his name right now. Jimmy. Trey Gotti used to call him Jimmy. So the new ODNI guy, this intermediate guy, Barrett, seems to be, or I'm not reaching the name right now, but he seems to be Bennett. He seems to be the only guy who's ever declassified anything. Look at the thing we said about Trump with Flynn and being unmasked, and how they were using Flynn as a surveillance rabbit. Basically, anybody Flynn talked to, immediately they were able to look at their phone calls, look at their travel schedule, etc. during the whole Trump campaign. Who
is trying to take Netanyahu out?
Oh, there's a guy named Avi Braverman who's into the dark arts.
Is he American or Israeli?
He's Israeli. He used to run the World Bank. Avi's one of the darker souls. There's Israel split. There's people who say, hey, we can't really sell nuclear bombs to everybody, especially when they're saying death to Israel. And then there's other people saying, no, we're smart enough. We got the codes. Let's go ahead and sell them the nuclear weapons. So you have a split in Israel. Netanyahu is saying, hey, profit to a point. But beyond a certain point, we don't want to be given bioweapons to Soleimani. Soleimani had a huge bioweapons program. We don't want to be giving them chemical weapons because the Iranians can't compete with nukes. The only way they can compete with Israel is asymmetrically, either chems or bios. And you don't want to give these people bioweapons.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot there. Oh, give me a sec here.
Let me just say this. The guy who's doing it is Peter Strzok. And Peter Strzok's selling him this stuff. He grew up in Iran. His father cultivated all these tribes. And it's at some point, you have to say no more. That the money's not that important. World control and your brotherhood that you have, in Iran is not as important as the people of the United States shutting down our economy.
Is Strzok, does he have Comey's old position?
No, Strzok is, you think he's out, but he's not. He was drummed out of the FBI, but he was always CIA. He still is CIA.
Oh, he's CIA. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He got 2 paychecks. He got an FBI paycheck and a CIA paycheck.
What?
Yeah, no, he was double-hatted. Absolutely. I could prove that with documents.
Why did you want your kids to? You have 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you want them in the IDF if you're American?
Because I guess I root for the little guy. When 7 nations all gang up on somebody and say they want to destroy you and push you into the sea, I was always the biggest kid. If I saw 7 other kids beating up on the weakest kid in class, I tended to go help the one who was in the corner all by himself, getting the crap kicked out of him. And I realized Israel's not in that position now, but it used to be. The 67 war was very touch and go. The 73 war was very touch and go. Especially 73 war, before you're born.
What does touch and go mean, George?
It could have been, everyone in Israel could have been gone. There was part where they were talking about moving the capital in 73. Because they were closing in. I think the Egyptians on the southern, maybe it was the Syrians, I can't remember, but it was the Syrians. It was touch and go. We didn't know if it was going to last. It is an aircraft carrier of democracy. I know people don't believe that. They say Zionists and all this, but I do think it is a chance for democracy in the Middle East.
You don't think they have a Zionist agenda?
Some do. Golan Heights. We can argue over the Golan Heights. I was the first person to call out Genie Energy. I called out the guy at Fox, who owns Fox, who was in on it. James Woolsey was in on it. James Clapper was in on it. All the people at APCO, James Weiner, the ex-secretary of energy with Jeff Epstein. I called out all these people because I was against taking over the Golan Heights. But they wanted a pipeline for Iranian oil to the Mediterranean, all the way to Europe, a southern route, versus fighting over this northern route through Ukraine.
And why is Iran the bad guys?
I don't dislike the Iranian people at all. I think they're wonderful people. They're incredibly intelligent people. They've got a long history in Persia of developing mathematics and all these things. So algebra, etc. So I don't have anything against them. What I don't like is a carve out CIA bunch of mullahs that are stealing all the national wealth from Iran and pumping it out into the Gulf of Hormuz, and selling it on 80 cents on the dollar and not giving anything to the Iranian people. We're just using Iran as a proxy to murder people all over Africa, all over Central Asia. We use the Quds Force as an expeditionary force for the oil interests in London, and the gas interests in London, and the metal markets in London. And Peter Strzok, again, is the key linkage point there. So I want Iranians to live for Iran, not live for BP. And that's what I think they are. They're a tool right now, and they have been really ever since at the end of World War II. CIA overthrew, installed Mossadegh, then overthrew Mossadegh, installed the Shah, then overthrew the Shah. Khomeini came and go. Ahmadinejad was a CIA plant. Just here we go. Here's another guy who was educated and groomed. And every time they throw a guy out, they change the terms of the oil agreements. They change the terms of Imperial Kish Oil. They change the terms and make it a little bit better for themselves. So that's my perspective on Iran. A lot of people don't believe me and don't agree with me, but that's my perspective.
Okay, thanks for that, George. And just one last question on Israel. So you are supportive of them, but you're not supportive of the extremism or the Zionism, as I understand it.
Correct. I think there was a time, especially in the Negev, on the southern border and all that, no holds barred was needed. Israel's security is no longer threatened like that anymore. So I say, let's get away from these dark weapons. And you have to have people on the inside saying that, like Netanyahu saying, hey, Avi, we don't need to do this anymore. We don't need to be the merchants of these dark weapons anymore. And I can see what's happening is the Chertoffs and the people who are all for spraying Americans, right, with some bioweapon for crowd control. This is how Chertoff dreams. I wish I could have a scanner. He owns all the scanners in the airports now, the ones that have the high resolution.
Oh yeah.
The microwave, the millimeter wave scanners. He loves to have an idea. If I could spray a crowd and then later on I could pick that up that this person was sprayed in my scanner. That's how Chertoff thinks. And so when I hear people come out against Israel and the next word out of their mouth is Zionism, everybody lumped together, you're not going to ever be able to get the change you need in Israel unless you reach out to the moderate folks in Israel. And that's what I fear is if you call everybody in Israel Zionist, you're never going to get their help into making it any different.
Yeah, I agree. That name calling doesn't do any good, especially when people, I think, struggle with that black and white thinking already. The biggest thing that I don't fully understand is why we give them so much aid and money.
Yeah, you're giving me all the tough Israel questions today. I'm not, I'm not an advocate for APIC and all that, and I don't think we need to keep doing that. I think there's a lot of things happening on Capitol Hill with spying and so forth, and blackmail, and a whole bunch of other reasons why those things happen. But I agree with you; they're not needed.
Yeah. Okay. That was more like 3 questions on Israel,
okay.
But we can move on. What you said about Trump actually made me think of one of the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And it basically says not to build fortresses around yourself, as isolation can destroy you. And it seems that has happened almost as a function of the fact that so many people want to see him fall, especially in the media, that he's surrounded himself with, only the yes men who he can trust, or at least he thinks he can trust. So because of that, I think that's why, like you said, he doesn't have the right intelligence.
Yeah, it's a bad thing. I think my mic might be muted. It's a bad thing when it's a bad thing when all your yes men are lying to you. They can't even get the word yes right. And that's the situation that it is with Trump. I used to be quiet about the back channel with Jared Kushner. I used to be quiet about the back channel with Netanyahu, but I spoke up the last time they tried this smear before the election. And now you just told me this now, and there's no use hiding it anymore. It's Trump's last thread to intelligence. You may or may not, people don't have to believe that, but I'm telling you, that's the truth. And without that last thread of intelligence, you may as well punch Trump's eyes out and punch his ears. He's deaf and dumb to the world of what's really happening without an intelligence service to report to him.
That would make sense why they're going after Netanyahu.
Yeah, There's no doubt in my mind. Netanyahu hasn't done anything wrong. Everybody who's a politician, there's hundreds of meetings every day. They're getting donations, in the hundreds every day. This is why I never was too, uh, you know, uh, brutal on Bill Clinton for accepting $500,000 for a speech. But when somebody gets 23 million or 30 million from the king of Morocco with one of the worst human rights records in the world, Hillary Clinton, that's where I start focusing in and say, hey, this looks like a weapons deal to me. And a kickback for the State Department letting this country have, certain kinds of weapons.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. $23 million from the king of Morocco. And it was the Eric Braverman, who was the CEO of the Clinton Foundation, refused to go. They were going to have a world conference on energy there, which was just basically a big meetup for dark weapons to buy weapons.
I find it interesting that Hillary seems to be the weapons master, and then Clinton's like he's just a horny blackmail guy, right? It's just kind of funny.
I think Bill Clinton, well, I don't want to get in. People don't like me for a lot of reasons. And one of them is Bill Clinton had horrible history with women, obviously, with all the rapes and terrible. But I did go to Little Rock. I did interview a lot of people who knew Bill Clinton very well. And it's worth studying these people who are so important in world history. And one of the things they said is if Bill Clinton walked in that door right now, he would not only know my name, he would know my wife's name, he would know my kid's name, and he would say, how's Johnny doing in karate? And how's Janie doing in ballet class? And it's not because Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton genuinely likes people, but it's because he wants to go after your campaign contribution. He knows if he remembers your kids in karate class, you're going to give more.
Yeah.
But Hillary everyone I talked to her, all the Secret Service I've talked to that were on her deal, a lot of Secret Service I've interviewed. She just does not like people. Her only friends are people who are selling weapons.
She's such a like you don't see that personality type in women very often.
No.
But when you do, it seems to be very extreme, and it works for her because she's such a bull, and like political power monger.
Yeah, her kind of archetype was Queen Elizabeth. I like you too, Deb. Debbie's saying hi. Queen Elizabeth was her model, and then also Madeleine Albright was her personal mentor. And Madeleine Albright, she was in your movie, by the way, R2-D2. She was R2-D2. She used to call herself R2-D2. Did Anakin ever run into R2-D2?
Yeah. Anakin runs into him via 3PO because 3PO befriends R2-D2, I think, when they meet.
Right.
But she acted as like she played the part of R2-D2 in one of the movies.
No, she's so short that she was actually running around these different conventions, and she used to call herself R2-D2.
Oh, okay.
Because she would come up and scare people. She's so short, and she'd go, bleep, bleep. I need your vote.
Yeah.
We want to stage another this massacre in Srebrenica.
Another coup in Central America is happening.
Yeah. And her father was very big into Gladio, which was a weapons for drugs program in Italy and Czechoslovakia and Eastern Europe. So she just kind of inherited all this CIA stuff from her dad. So I have some, understanding of how these things happen with these people, but they get so imbued in this thing that they can't get out.
It's almost like just speaking about the United States history, we're such a, we're like a toddler nation, really, when you look at our how long we've been around, but we're the most powerful nation. And it seems that, in the beginning, you have all these opportunities for shaping how the nation goes. But as time goes on, like almost a royal family, but an aristocracy is probably the best word for it, like starts to crystallize, right? And then you get almost like heading towards royalty because, people only deal with things nepotistically.
Yeah, I think the Kennedys definitely are America's royalty. You know, pretty much anything the Kennedys touch is, uh, you know, it's hard not to like John F. Kennedy. It's hard not to like Bobby Kennedy, Jackie, and so forth. But the Clintons tried to emulate that. Maybe Bill got halfway there with, but Hillary never came close
Yeah.
to any of the other ones.
Yeah, some people just don't have that. I don't know. It's like the intangible, right? That you have it, George. That kind of like charisma or getting people to lower their defenses. And yeah, she does not seem. Bill's. He's a borderline master at it. But Hillary just doesn't seem to have that in her genes at all.
Yeah, and I think for a certain group of people, I can't read that. Let's see, always good to see you, George. Okay,
She
Autumn.
said, yeah, Autumn Masbro, I think her last
Oh,
name
great!
is.
I
Yeah,
didn't know you could get super chat here. So hey,
yeah.
that's
Always
awesome.
good to see George and Addie in conversation. Thank you for that, Autumn. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I saw those English pounds coming in, unless those were Australian pounds. Well, actually, Australia is dollars. So
Yeah, it's UK, I believe.
yeah, UK. So it'd be interesting to see what part she's from in the UK.
Yeah, where are
But
you
that,
from, Autumn? Just put it in the comments. And if other people want to chip in too, let us know where you're from. We always enjoy that. It's very interesting.
I want to say this. I have to go move. The 300-pound air conditioner came out. Now I got to move another 300-pound in.
No worries. Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
but I do want to say this. It's independent journalists like you that are fair and balanced, really fair and balanced, that really give people a chance to talk. And you ask tough questions too, but fair, tough questions. All the Israel questions and so forth. That is great journalism. And I just hope the people out there listening to this can realize how good of a journalist this young man is. And he's going to get better every day, going to get better every day. And I want to do anything I can do to help you in your budding career in journalism and communications. And you really would make everybody at your university back there at Madison, Wisconsin, proud of the great job you're doing.
Wow, that's pretty high praise coming from you, George. I really appreciate it. I don't even think of it as journalism, to be honest. Like I never thought. I've always had a really negative view of journalists, and so I always thought about it just like interviewing and just kind of asking good questions. But I want to, yeah, just thank you again, George, for those kind words. And yeah, it seems that there is, it's like a really high demand for it. It's almost like a vacuum of this need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank
And I,
you so much for chatting with me today, George. I will let you go and fix your air conditioner. Thanks everyone for tuning in from around the world, the UK, the US, and otherwise.
I see you, Cumberland, Maryland. I've been to Deep Creek Lake to find. There was another guy who almost got drowned at Deep Creek Lake, Frank Olson, who was at Fort Detrick, and later he gets thrown out of a window in New York. So I just wanted to say, anytime anybody puts their city in there, I immediately go to when I went there to do a story. So anyway, I had to say that before I go heft this big air conditioner heater up the ladder.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And until next week.